Good afternoon. For today's video, we will discuss about the anatomy and physiology of the female external genitalia. Let me flash my screen. Okay, for nursing practice 2 in the board exam, in the Philippine nursing licensure exam, and of course in the midwifery board exam, and for NCLEX, for those who wanted to be in the US or in Canada, these topics might be asked in your board exam. So let's focus on the anatomy and the physiology of the female external genitalia. Okay, this has been updated with the new book that I have with me. It's Dr. RPS. There are things that are now updated in here. So we have here the mons pubis or the mons veneris. If you define it, it is a soft, rounded fatty pad or cushion over the symphysis pubis. But then again, this one is important in measuring your fundic height because of the symphysis pubis in it. You start measuring your fundic height at the symphysis pubis up to the height of the fundus, up to the height of the fundus. If, for example, the measurement of the fundic height is lesser to what is or what should be, okay, pwedeng may problema ang bata. It could be there is intrauterine growth retardation. There is the possibility of oligohydramnios. There is intrauterine fetal death or other problems related to small for gestational age or iba-ibang problema na related sa maliit na tiyan. And then if the fundic height is mas malaki or higher than what is required, the number one possibility here is you might be having polyhydramnios, or you might be having a macrosomic baby, or you will have gestational trophoblastic disease or your age mode. So for this one, okay, you have to know where is the mons pubis for you to take note where is the symphysis pubis so that you would know how to measure properly the fundic height. Failure to measure the fundic height in right way or in the right way could cause you failure of getting the right fundic height of the woman, and that might lead to misdiagnosis by the physician or even other healthcare providers. Okay, we have here the labia majora. Later, I will show you the picture, but the labia majora is considered as the bigger lips. What you can see here is you could have your escutcheon. Your escutcheon is your pubic hair in the Philippine Nursing Board exam. In the Philippine Nursing Board exam and even in the NCLEX, the pubic hair of a male is diamond. Okay, diamond in shape. Okay, and in female, the pubic hair is inverted triangle. The presence of the pubic hair in both males, the male and the female's reproductive organ is very important. Before when we let the mother deliver intravaginally or normal spontaneous delivery, ang sasabihin nila sa atin, we have to shave. Okay, we have to shave the pubic hair. But as per evidence base, we could not shave the pubic hair now because we have to ask consent. Okay, we have to ask consent coming from the mother. So again, that's the labia majora. It's where you can see your scotchen. For the labia minora, it protects the obscure vestibule and the urinary meatus and the OS or opening. So when you say it protects and obscure the vestibule, it covers the vestibule and all the organs inside it. So the labia minora in the board exam is important when we are talking about squatting position. And in squatting position, if a normal mother delivers and assumes squatting position, the labia minora could be torn. And in that case, we will not be suturing the labia minora and we will let it heal on its own. So that's the disadvantage of having the squatting position, but it is one of the best position that the mother could assume para mas mabilis siyang manganak. Okay. Next, we have here the clitoris. Okay, in the board exam, the clitoris is a guide for catheterization. In the board exam, the clitoris is a guide for catheterization. Again, it is a guide for catheterization. We have an update here that the clitoris before was only 2,000 or composing 2,000 nerve fibers, but now in 2022 or even in 2020, okay? Pero as early as 2022 ito eh, it has been found out that the clitoris have more than 10,000 nerve fibers, okay? It has more than 10,000 nerve fibers. So it proves to us, okay, that this is what highly sensitive. But in the board exam, the clitoris is a guide for catheterization. We also have here your vestibule. When we say the vestibule, it is almost shaped area bounded by the labia minora laterally, the clitoris anteriorly, and the foreshape posteriorly. And along with the vestibule, we have 6 openings. That is why when you are a woman, you should take note that you should be having at least 7 openings, okay? 6 of which are under your vestibule, okay? The 7th is your anal sphincter. So you have here the urethral meatus or the anterior opening. When we say the urethral meatus, it is important in the board exam because the urethral meatus is highly related to the development of a UTI to mothers. So the urethral meatus being adjacent, okay, to your anal sphincter, where you can have your Escherichia coli. Your E. coli or your Escherichia coli is a normal flora of your intestines, and as a normal flora of your intestines, okay, it could be causing infection or other infection to the other parts of the body pag napunta siya doon. Like for example, when you are wiping your poop, okay, when you're wiping your poop towards your urethral meatus, and that could cause you to have UTI. And during pregnancy, the space of the urethral meatus and the anal sphincter is small or malapit sila. So it could cause UTI. And in obstetrics, in the board exam, the woman having UTI could be having preterm labor. Kahit hindi pa nila alam what is the direct reason why or how UTI could cause this preterm labor in the pregnant woman. We also have here the vaginal opening. The vaginal opening is very important because we have the posterior opening and we also have the hymen in it. Okay, we also have the hymen in it. Okay, before the hymen is considered as a criterion for virginity. Again, before it was considered as a criterion for virginity, meaning if you will not bleed in the first sexual intercourse, meaning you don't have a hymen and you are no longer virgin. But then again, they have found out in the new books that we have for maternal and child health nursing that there are people who were born without a hymen, and even multiparous women could still have the multiform hymen. What is the good news here is they have mentioned that when your hymen was torn, okay, you will have to wait for 2 years for the possibility that the hymen could regenerate. But then again, do not penetrate your vagina with anything. Just have to wait for 2 years without inserting anything to it, and the hymen may regenerate. Okay, this is a good news for those people who lost their hymen with the wrong person at the wrong place at the wrong time. And then we have here the Skin's glands. The Skin's glands are also called your paraurethral glands. Okay, why it is called as your paraurethral glands? It is called as your paraurethral glands. Okay, paraurethral glands. Okay, or your minor vestibular glands, or your minor vestibular glands, or your minor vestibular glands, okay? Or your minor vestibular glands, because they are beside the urethra. But in the board exam, they're the most common site for gonococcal infections and other STIs. So that is your skin glands, your paraurethral glands, or your minor vestibular glands, okay? Next, we have your Bartholin's glands. Your Bartholin's glands are in the new book, the site of cysts, infection, and abscess formation. And your Bartholin's gland are also called as your paravaginal glands, or what we call as your major vestibular glands. Okay, we have your major vestibular glands. So these are one opening for the urethral meatus, 2 vaginal opening, 3, 4 Skin's gland, Bartholin's gland is 5 and 6, and the 7 is your anal sphincter. So as a woman, you have 7 holes or openings. Okay, so you have your Bartholin's glands. Next, we have your perineum. The perineum is support where it is provided by pelvic urogenital diaphragms. Okay, so this one, the perineum, is very important as we do the right mediolateral episiotomy and the median episiotomy. So what is the thing with these two? Before they have decided to perform the right mediolateral episiotomy so as not to hit the anal sphincter and prolong the agony of a woman. But then again, the median episiotomy has been proven to be better than the right mediolateral episiotomy because in median episiotomy, they have found out that the suture or the wound will heal faster than that of the RMLE. But for now, in practice, they still prefer doing the RMLE, even if it prolongs the pain suffered by the woman, as long as you will not be hitting the anal sphincter of the woman. Okay. Next, we have your vaginal orifice is the external opening of the vagina which contains your hymen, and that is just a repetition of the lecture a while ago. So this one, if you will try to see here, you have here your inverted triangle as the shape of the pubic hair of a woman. You have here your clitoris as a guide for catheterization, and then you have here your labia minora, which now covers your vestibule, the flat surface here. And this is the urethral meatus being adjacent to your anus, and that could give you the possibility of developing UTI. And this is your vaginal orifice. Your vaginal orifice, okay, is the opening of your vagina. Actually, your hymen in it, the hymen inside it, the hymen here, separates your internal and external female genitalia. Again, aside from the hymen as a criterion for virginity, it separates your internal and external female genitalia. Okay, so this is the labia majora. You could see the escutcheon in it. This is the symphysis pubis, where when you palpate this one, you would feel the symphysis pubis. So that's the mons pubis. Under it is the symphysis pubis. Okay. Next. So for this one, we will just be focusing on common board exam question. We will now have the female internal organs starting from the vagina. Okay, it is a hollow membranous and muscular canal that the length is 3 to 4 inches. Posterior wall, 10 centimeter long. Anterior wall is, okay, 7.5 cm long. But before, ang sinasabi lang ng libro, the vagina is 8 to 10 centimeter or 8 to 12 centimeter. But now, you have a new measurement to take note, okay? So the vagina is 3 to 4 inches, which would mean the penis being inserted at it should only be that long, okay? Should only be that long, so you will not be having cervical cancer. So as an update, the vagina or the upper end of the vagina is now called your vault, with the functions an organ for copulation or an organ for sex. So the penis should not be inserted anywhere. It is also where your menstrual flow discharges, and then of course it is the birth canal. When you say the birth canal, um it is where the baby will come out in a normal spontaneous delivery or in a normal vaginal or spontaneous vaginal delivery. Okay, we also have here the rogae. When you will feel your here, in Tagalog, it's your siko. Okay, this is the characteristic of the vaginal rogae. The vaginal rogae is just there to accommodate whatever is inserted at it. Okay, when the penis is just like this, then the vagina will just accommodate this, and whenever you will have sex with that woman, it will just be the same. But when once the woman delivered to a normal spontaneous delivery or via normal spontaneous delivery, and the baby came out with the size of this, and then the vaginal rogae will expand, okay, it will never be the same again. So it would mean that the more time that you deliver, okay, mas mag-expand ang rogae ng vaginal wall mo or yung rogaes mo. Okay? The vaginal pH here, take note that when you have puberty, okay, meron na kayong, your ovaries are already active. Take note, in maternal and child health nursing, it's a different thing. If you're not yet pregnant, your ovaries are functional. When you're pregnant, your ovaries are no longer functional because its function are taken by the corpus luteum. Okay, it is taken by the corpus luteum and the placenta thereafter. So when the ovaries are active in the production of estrogen and progesterone, the estrogen in your body will stimulate the production of cervical mucus, and this cervical mucus will be converted by the Dudorlein's bacilli into lactic acid, making now the pH of the vagina acidic. So what is all about the Dudorlein's bacilli? The Dudorlein's bacilli or the Dudorlein's bacillus is the normal flora of your vagina. Again, during puberty, when your ovaries is active, okay, it produces estrogen. Okay, and this estrogen will stimulate the production of cervical mucus, and this cervical mucus will be converted by the Dudorlein's bacilli into lactic acid, making now the vaginal pH acidic. So take note, when you say the vaginal pH is acidic, we have to bear in mind that you should not be putting anything here, or you should not be douching every moment so that the acidity of the vagina will not be altered, because when it's altered, it will give you infections, okay? The blood supply is coming from the vaginal artery. And then, of course, the upper portion is coming from the cervicovaginal branch, and the middle portion is inferior vesical arteries. These are just good to know. These are objective. It's just for you to read it, okay? Now we have here, so this is the reproductive organ inside. You have here your uterus, okay? You have here your ovaries, both bilateral, and then you have your bilateral, your fallopian tubes or the oviducts, and this is the vagina where you can find the rugae in here, and then this is the cervix, okay? You take note that in the board exam, the middle of the cervix, or what we call as the cervical central cervical canal or squamocolumnar portion, okay? The columnus squamous or the squamocolumnar portion is where we can find or diagnose cervical cancer, okay? Next. Ayan, pasensya na. Okay. So if you're the uterus, we'll have a picture in it later so you would appreciate how the areas or these parts of the body are interconnected with each other. So the functions of the uterus, it is a hollow vascular canal resembling an inverted pear into a sphere, into an ovoid. So medyo tatlo yung changes from a pear shape into sphere into ovoid when it already accommodates the enlarging baby. The functions of the uterus, it is an organ for reproduction, meaning it is the site for implantation. It is the only site for implantation. There is no other part of the body where you could implant the baby because the baby will not grow. Okay? If there is an ectopic pregnancy or a pregnancy outside the uterus, it will just be until 3 months and it will rupture. If that's the fallopian tube, it will rupture. Okay? Or you will lose the baby. Okay? It is an organ for menstruation because we have layers of the uterus. We have your endometrium, your myometrium, and your perimetrium. For the uterus as an organ for menstruation, it is the endometrium that sloughs off during mens. It is the endometrium that sloughs off during mens, and that is, of course, 2/3 of the endometrium every menstruation. Okay. During menstruation, the endometrium has two sub-layers also, the glandular and the basal. It is the glandular layer of the endometrium specifically that sloughs off during menstruation, and 2/3 of that. And the basal layer, as the second layer, will give rise to the new endometrium. I'll repeat, as an organ for menstruation, it's the endometrium that sloughs off, particularly or specifically your glandular layer. Your glandular layer will be the one to slough off, and then the basal layer of the endometrium will give rise to the new endometrium thereafter. The uterus in the board exam is also an organ for contraction. When we say it is an organ for contraction, we particularly mean the myometrium. The myometrium actually is yung pinakamakapal. That is the pinakamakapal na part ng uterus that contracts. So when you have the uterus, tandaan mo, the upper part of the uterus is the one that is actively contracting, and the lower part of the uterus or the second half of the uterus down there is passive. It will not be contracting to accommodate the baby going down. Okay? Next. Okay, this one, na-update na rin siya, okay? This is updated. Actually, I don't know, but anatomy is being updated. Hindi ko talaga lubos maisip na update na rin para yung anatomy, okay? Before puberty is 2.5 to 3.5 in an adult nulliparous woman from 6 cm to 8 cm. And in multiparous woman, it's 9 centimeter to 10 centimeter. But the uterine weight in the book of Piliteri, it was 50 grams up to 1,010 grams. But in the new book of Dr. RPS, the non-pregnant uterus only now measures, or I'm sorry, only now weighs 60 grams from that of the 50 grams. And for the pregnant uterus until term, it should be until 1,000 grams. But in the book of Piliteri, it is 50 grams for non-pregnant. And for pregnant, it is 1,010 grams. But the most updated one is this one, okay? This is a 2024 book of Dr. Salustiano. And Dr. Salustiano is one of the favorite of the Board of Nursing here in the Philippines, of course. And Dr. Salustiano is one of the best, okay, MCH and translator, or how we call that, author in the Philippines. Kasi pinapasimple nila yung Williams. So we have here the parts of the uterus. We will just read it, and then later on, we will have to pinpoint where the parts are. We have here the fundus, the uppermost portion located between the insertion of the fallopian tubes, and it is the most contractile portion during labor. As what I've told you a while ago, the upper part of the uterus is the one that is contracting, and then we have here the frenua, the portion at which the fallopian tubes are inserted, and then we have here the isthmus, the upper third of the cervix, which is very thin and which forms the lower uterine segment during delivery. And here, the corpus makes up the 2/3 of the said organ. And then the cervix is the neck of the uterus that is about 2.5 long and has a diameter of 2.5 cm too. So we'll now try to pinpoint where the parts are. I hope the drawing is here. Okay. So please take note, my dear nurses and my dear midwives, that the drawing is here. Okay, let's start from the uterus. This is the endometrium. Okay, this is the endometrium. This is the one that sloughs off during menstruation. Again, it has two sublayers. We have the glandular and the basal. And the glandular is the one that sloughs off during menstruation, and the basal layer will give rise to the new endometrium for another menstruation. This is also your myometrium. The uterus is called an organ for contraction because the myometrium is the one that is actively contracting during labor. And the perimetrium is here, the one that is attached to your ligaments, okay? So this is the fundus of the uterus. This is actively contracting. Again, this is where you could start measuring for your fundal height, okay? From the symphysis pubis up to the fundus, or from the fundus up to the symphysis pubis, as long as the point of reference is correct and there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, so you have the fundus here. This is the cornua. Actually, the cornua is a part of the uterus being attached to the fallopian tube. So the cornua is a part of the uterus being attached to the fallopian tube. And this is the corpus, the body of the uterus, where the baby is being encapsulated at. Okay, so this is the corpus, the body of the uterus, where the baby is being encapsulated at. We also have here the isthmus going to your cervix down here. This is the internal os, and this is also the external os. We have here your fallopian tubes. They are bilateral. Later on, you will know the functions of the fallopian tube, but for the benefit of knowing what is it in the drawing, as we have here the intramural. In the board exam, they call it interstitial. The intramural part of the fallopian tube, or the interstitial part of the fallopian tube, is where your fallopian tube is inserted to your uterus, okay? It is where your fallopian tube insert itself into the uterus. And here we have the isthmus. In the board exam, this is where they do your BTL, or bilateral tubal ligation. Please take note that BTL could be either permanent or temporary. Permanent BTL is done to mothers who doesn't want to get pregnant anymore. Okay, ito yung ayaw na talaga nilang magbuntis. Permanent BTL, they will be cutting the fallopian tube permanently. And then we have the temporary. Why does this mother will have the temporary, or will have that option of having the temporary BTL? Because they are not, they could not be possibly having other family planning methods because of comorbid conditions that might not allow them to have those. So they will have the temporary BTL. What is our problem with the temporary BTL? Take note that the fallopian tube is moving. When the fallopian tube is moving, there is a possibility that the tie na nilagay nila doon, that tie that they put in here, will loosen up. So this is the temporary BTL versus the permanent BTL. So the isthmus is the area of the uterus or the fallopian tube where BTL is done. We also have here the ampulla. The ampulla is the side core. The ampulla is the side core. what? It is the site for fertilization. It is where your zygote meets, it is where your ovum meets the sperm and will now temporarily become the zygote. Okay, so the ampulla is the site for fertilization and the uterus is the site for implantation. We also have here the infundibulum. Okay, the infundibulum resembles like a funnel. It resembles like a funnel. Okay, it resembles like a funnel as it opens into the fimbria ovarica, as it opens into the fimbria ovarica. So that is your infundibulum. Okay, so we also have here your ovaries. If you will try to see, we have here the developing primordial follicle into a Graafian follicle. Graafian follicle releases the mature ovum, and then finally it will now become the corpus luteum until it will become the corpus albicans. So those are the parts of your fallopian tubes and the uterus, and that is one of the shortcuts that we could do here. Okay. Here. Okay. I'm sorry, guys. Okay. So we have here next tayo. Parts of the cervix, we have the internal os as it opens to your corpus, your cervical canal, the squamocolumnar portion where you can see your cervical cancer, and your external os as it opens to the vagina. And we have here the layers of the uterus, as what I've mentioned to you a while ago. We have the perimetrium, the myometrium, and the endometrium. What is the update for myometrium? The myometrium is now called the living ligatures that control bleeding in the third stage of labor and responds to oxytocic drugs. So whenever you give oxytocin to your patient, it is the myometrium of the uterus that responds to it and it stops the bleeding. So again, the myometrium is considered as your living ligatures. Okay, so ito na yung sinasabi ko kanina. There are two layers of the endometrium. You have your glandular layer. Again, it is the one that slaps off during menstruation. And the basal layer is the one that gives rise to the new endometrium. So we have here the position of the uterus, anteversion when the uterus leans forward, anteflexion when the uterus bends forward. So there should be a normal anteversion and anteflexion so that we could be preventing uterine prolapse. It is not true that you could ask the help of other person para hilutin ka. Hindi pwede po yun. Okay? That is not allowed by science. Next, we have the abnormalities in uterine position. You have here your retroflexion and retroversion. When you say retroverted, okay? When you say retroverted, when you see the color of the uterus here is the pink one. The brown one in the drawing is your rectum. And the bladder is your light blue, okay? So the uterus, okay, the uterus in normal position is in white and the pink one is the abnormal position. So for number one, that's retrovert. When you say retrovert, it's in front. Okay. When you say retroflex, okay. Sorry. When you say retrovert, it's from here, gumanon siya, and then retroflex pa ganon. When you say antiverted, okay, pag pwedeng antiverted pababa, antiflex pa ganon. So we have here, for example, this is the normal uterus. So we have here your ante, okay, antiverted, antiflex, and retroverted, retroflex. Again, so we have here ante, verted, anteflexed, okay, anteverted, anteflexed, and we have here retroverted, retroflex. So mas malala yung flex, okay, yung anteflex at saka retroflex. So when this is the normal position of the uterus, pag sinabi natin anteverted, bumaba. So when we say anteflex, bumaba pa siya. And when we say retroflex, gumanon, nag-lean siya. And then pag retroflex, gumanon pa siya. So that is the abnormal position of your uterus. Uterine ligaments, you have here the cardinal transverse cervical Mac-Endrot ligament as the main support of the uterus. Pag ito na-hit during cesarean section, you will have uterine inversion because it is considered as your chief uterine support. You have here your broad ligaments, okay, your peritoneal ligaments supports the sides of the uterus. At ito yung pinakamahalaga that supports the uterus in anteversion. And then you have the round ligaments. It connects the uterus into the labia majora. It gives stability to the uterus. And then we have here the uterosacral ligament. It connects the uterus into the sacrum. And then, of course, we have the anterior ligament that provides support to the uterus in connection with the bladder. And the posterior ligament, of course, connects the uterus into the cul-de-sac of Douglas. The three common board exam questions that comes out in here are when your cardinal ligament or your transverse cervical or your Mac-Endrot ligament as the chief uterine support is being hit, okay, accidentally during cesarean section, then you could have uterine inversion, okay? And then when the anterior ligament is being hit, magkakaroon ka ng tinatawag na cystocele, you will have cystocele, and cystocele is known to be the protrusion of a part of the bladder into the vagina. Cystocele is when the anterior ligament is damaged, okay? When the anterior ligament is damaged, it is a protrusion of a part of the bladder into the vagina. For the posterior ligament, it is a protrusion of a part of the rectum into the vagina, okay? You will have a rectocele. If the posterior ligament is damaged, you will have rectocele, and you will have the protrusion of a part of the rectum into the vagina. Again, what is rectocele? It is the protrusion of a part of the rectum into the vagina. When you say again that anterior ligament is damaged, you will have a cystocele. Cystocele is the protrusion of a part of the bladder into the vagina. Okay? Next, you will have your ovarian ligaments. Okay, it arises from the frenua of the uterus, and you have your pubocervical ligaments, okay, that pass forward from the cervix under the bladder to the pubic bones. Okay, so this is your uterus. That is the totality of the picture. And then the blood supply of the uterus comes from the uterine artery, the ovarian artery. And the functions of the uterus are for menstruation, as what I've told you a while ago. It's for pregnancy or gestation or the site of implantation. And of course, it is an organ for contraction or an organ for labor. So you would see na parang nireword lang siya, okay? Organ for menstruation, organ for pregnancy, gestation, or nidation, or conception, or it is an organ for labor. So those are the main functions of the uterus. For the fallopian tubes, they are both moving, okay? The length of the fallopian tube is averaging 10 centimeter. Okay, the function is the transport of the ovum from the ovary to the uterus. So, wala pa namang naglakad na ovum, right? So, you have to have that moving fallopian tube para mag-transfer, okay, or mag-transport ng ovum from the ovaries into the uterus. And it's the site of fertilization, particularly your ampulla. It is the site for fertilization, particularly your ampulla. And it provides nourishment to the ovum during its journey. Okay, habang nandun siya, okay, habang nagkakaroon siya ng cell division. And then parts of the fallopian tube, as we have discussed a while ago, we have the interstitial or the intramural. And the interstitial or the intramural is a part of the fallopian tube that is connected to the uterus. And the isthmus, again, is the narrowest portion in the board exam of the fallopian tube. That is the area for bilateral tubal ligation, both permanent or temporary. And the ampulla is the site for fertilization. When we say the ampulla is the site for fertilization, then doon nabubuo yung ating zygote. Then pandibulum, again, it resembles like a funnel, kaya tinawag siyang infundibulum that opens into the fimbria. And we have the blood supply. It comes from the ovarian artery. And of course, it comes, again, okay, so we have here, from the ovarian artery, and then of course, the uterine arteries. So this is how it looks like. Okay, problems. This will be the last for this lesson, so you will not be bored. Okay, so we have here a normal pregnancy and an ectopic pregnancy. When we say it's an ectopic pregnancy, it is a pregnancy outside the uterus. It is a pregnancy outside the uterus. So this will just be until 3 months, and then it will rupture if it will not be implanted in the uterus. Another problem, okay, another disease that could impair pregnancy aside from ectopic pregnancy, this is 2022, this is the most updated one, is aside from ectopic pregnancy, we have also what we call as salpingitis. So in salpingitis, okay, in salpingitis, we have what we call as, wait for that moment, there's a problem with my slide. Okay, your salpingitis is mica, okay, and non-nodular salpingitis. In salpingitis is mica, okay. So there will be nodules here. For non-nodular, wala siyang nodules. It's just like an inflammation. Okay, salpingitis is the inflammation of your fallopian tube. So for salpingitis, again, salpingitis is mica nodosa. This one for number one. Okay, nag-inflame lang siya with the nodules, and with non-nodular salpingitis, this one, it's just like an embutido. Okay, next tayo. Aside from salpingitis and ectopic pregnancy, we could have the hydrosalpinx, okay? Your hydrosalpinx are swollen infection and obstruction. So this could be the possible reasons why a woman could not get pregnant. That is why we always tell the woman to be ruled out by the OB-gynecologist whenever there is the possibility na hindi siya nabubuntis. Okay? So, nakita mo nag-twist-twist. Okay? Or meron siyang mga, meron siyang mga fluid accumulation. Okay? Yung talagang twisting is your adnexal torsion or ovarian torsion or tubal torsion. So when there is torsion, when we say ovarian adnexal torsion, it's here. And when we have ovarian torsion, it's here. So twisting that could cause tubal infertility or inability to conceive due to congenital abnormalities and infections. This one, we don't term it as infertility now. We term it as subfertility, because they have seen still the possibility that the woman could conceive. So we have two types of infertility or subfertility. We have primary or secondary. When we say primary, subfertility or infertility, there is an incomplete at talagang wala pa. Ma'am, paano mo masasabi na infertile or subfertile lang isang babae? When the woman is every month siyang nagre-regla, it's regular menstruation, meron siyang asawa, wala namang problema, and then 1 year na magkasama sila, that they are having sex and still they could not conceive, and that could possibly now be the consideration of the woman to be infertile or the couple to be infertile. Why the couple? Because it might be the man who is the reason na hindi naman talaga yung babae. So, primary infertility, wala talaga silang anak. Secondary infertility, nagkaanak ng isa, pero wala nang sumunod. So, what they would do here is to inspect the possibility or the reason of the infertility or the subfertility. Again, the new term for infertility is your subfertility. Subal cancer, it arises from other cancers like your ovaries, uterine cancer, and cervical cancer. Okay. So the next time we will be talking about the ovaries, ovulation, and on how the primordial follicle becomes the Graafian follicle, from the Graafian follicle into the corpus luteum. So you have to wait for my next video. Thank you for today.